irrigation. So we've got, I left a lot of time at the end for questions because we're starting to see some problems show up. If you set your irrigation up, let's say you bought a new house, and the contractor came in, set up the irrigation, set it to come on every other day 4 years ago, and you've never adjusted that yet since, it may be that your plants are starting to struggle. Or the other one is, we set it up, we put the new plants in, maybe we've been adjusting the drip irrigation, but we've never tuned it up, as we've never added another emitter. Now the trees have a caliper, trunk caliper this size, but we've never, it's still feeding off the same 2 emitters right at the base, but this tree has got a drip system, drip mass, it's way, 10 feet wide. Sometimes we need to adjust that. We're gonna go over all of that today. So you'll be an expert, or you'll be armed and dangerous so you can ask the right questions at least by the end of this class. You never get it right. You're always incorrect on your watering. You're just trying to stumble around so that you're making mistakes without killing things. That's the goal. So even I'm always tweaking, playing with my own irrigation. And so you'll see that across the street. I've got some plants, they're all within the last year. They've all been planted. And since the rain, I've started to kill off my herbivida mainly, because they're an evergreen, that if they get too much rain, in combination with your drip irrigation, it is possible to overwater those things. And so the indication will be, especially on evergreens, the inside, the core of the needles, the inside of the plant will turn yellow and start to defoliate, and then finally brown, and it works its way out till finally it dies. Those are symptoms of overwatering. If it's brown at the tips, let's say we've got this Manzanita, and it's brown at the tip, and it starts to brown back towards the inside, that's usually underwatering. That was damage that was caused back in June. Remember, end of May, first part of June, we went from beautiful, just 89 degrees, and it was magical. It's perfect. That's why we live in the mountains. And it went to 105 in like 2 days. It just went from nice to, why don't I just live in Phoenix kind of stuff. I did that for like a week straight. It was just hot. It was not nice. Those plants got heat stress, and that was brown at the tips, working its way back. Usually plants can compensate for that and regrow. That tip will brown out, but it'll re-leaf or put a new bud and start to work its way out. Overwatering is actually more difficult to compensate from. If it's yellow on the inside, the leaves are all yellow inside, and then it's kind of slowly loses its leaves the outside, that's overwater typically. And there the roots are rotting off, and so you actually have root rot. The plants are stained, they can't breathe, and they start to rot off, and so you see this indication. So kind of watch that. You can now be a pro just by looking at that. That's how basically I'll look at it and I can go spot it. You want to explain for 5 minutes what's happening, it's overwatering. I can tell it in a flash, and now you can too. It's a real easy way. Okay. What I did, this is our native Manzanita. Isn't that spectacular? This one I am not able to grow in my backyard. I've tried 5 times. 5 of these. Everyone thinks, oh Ken, you got it easy. You get everything at wholesale. You own a garden center. No, that's not the case. It's way more expensive to garden if you own a garden center, because you're more apt to try things. Or if you bump up against a barrier, like I killed the first 3, you're willing to try it 2 more times before you finally give up and go, I can't grow Manzanita. It's more expensive to own a garden center, trust me. This one, the reason is, my house is on a north slope, and so I don't get the sun that maybe some of you folks on that west and southwest of the hills, and I've got heavy clay soil on a heavy slope, so all the water goes down. Right now, my dry creek bed,
it's not a dry creek.
It's not dry. It's running like crazy. My poor neighbors downstream, I hope it doesn't go over the boundaries of the dry creek. But that clay soil slope, north slope, with heavy clay, these plants just can't breathe. I can't get them enough air at the root structure. Plants give off oxygen at the foliage, but they have to have oxygen at the roots. As soon as you fill up all those pockets where oxygen should be, you fill it up with water molecules, all of a sudden plants start drowning. They have to breathe at the root level. And some of them are much more sensitive than others. So this one, if you're going to plant it in your yard, I would suggest leaving a portion of the root ball out of the ground. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Just turn it this way. So, let's say this is your garden soil. You've got this Manzanita bush out here, like this. I would actually plant this up out of the ground. So let's say it's like this. So I have, and I'll slightly mound the soil up to the roots. That way, if we get a heavy rain like this, which is very common, this is when more plants die than in winter. Right now is when plants, believe it or not, this is when we see the returns. This is when you see the issues. The plants are guaranteed, warranted, but who cares if the plant's replaced? You still got your back-breaking labor to get the plant out of the ground, to bring it back in the nursery, get a new one, to go put the, I don't ever want to do, once is enough for me. That's why we want to really make sure you're successful with this. But this is a technique, especially for you folks out the 69 corridor, Prescott Valley, all the way out to Cordes Junction. It's heavy clay with caliche layers, which is even worse. That's like it's a chalky layer of soil that kind of goes through, and it's a calcium layer that just will not drain. Water does not go through caliche is. You're new to the area, you've not heard that till you got here. But it's a serious thing, and you folks out that 69 corridor, you've really got it thick. I've seen it as deep as this, and as shallow as just a little layer. And usually we'll try to take the jackhammer. If we're coming out to plant for you, we take the jackhammer and try to fracture that layer of caliche so that the water can get through it and keep going down. But the reason we're doing this, we put our drip emitter up here. So there's our drip line. We'll put our drip emitter up on top of this mound, and the reason we do that is so that in the monsoons, the plants can breathe. Or in March. March is another time when things die. We get these real heavy, wet snows. Very, very soggy, wet snows. And the snow just sits there and slowly melts. And that 2-3 week time of cold and wet with the snow, you can have root rot damage happen. It's all about root rot. Whatever you do, stay away from anything Phoenix or Tucson tells you to do. There they say, oh no, we want a rain harvest. You heard this? We want to plant it in a divot. We want plants to be down here below ground so we can collect the rain. Say it's a tree. We want to collect the rain up. You're doomed if you do that here in the mountains.
They have that project at the adult center where they've done that.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
It's a problem, yeah. Plants are going to die. I mean, our plants will be heavily culled, thinned as they die out. So you're going to have some losses that way. We'll go over the plants that are more sensitive. I kind of brought some plants together that are more sensitive, and they're the really drought-hardy plants that they tell us to plant. Those are the ones that are most sensitive. Those are the ones you have to really watch this technique. We are playing with community-wide rain harvesting. That's where we take all the road water and bring it into a park. We collect the water up so we can get credits on the water credits. It's all about water credits, so we can have access to it. So we're playing with that. We are the forefront of community-wide rain harvesting on a city-wide level or subdivision level. So it's exciting to see. I think we need to have California in drought for another couple of years. I'm fearful that they'll come out of drought too soon, and then they just go right back to their wasteful ways and just water like crazy. No, I want nothing but lawn. It's grotesque how much water they use per capita, per person. So if we keep them in drought, they'll actually change manufacturers, they'll change plant growers, they'll change the whole West. If we get that many million people in drought, I know it sounds bad, but it'd be good for us that actually have to manage our water. So anyway, watch that. With that technique, that's a game changer right there, especially for you folks in heavy clay soil. Even with that, here you folks online, can you see that? That's how to plant. There you go. Okay, so with that, I still killed this plant. I could not keep it alive even with that technique. It's so Manzanita are so drought hardy. You can put them in the ground, and after just a year of care, cut them off with all water whatsoever, and they're evergreen like that, and they just keep on growing. So if they get too much and they can't breathe, they're doomed. Okay, question in the back.
Manzanita.
Yes.
A number of them have killed parts of the lip.
Yes.
Should I cut those off?
Yeah, so his question is, Manzanita in the back, good question. Sometimes with an old established one, they're as big as you and I, big around like this, sometimes the middle will die out. Actually, Manzanita is very short-lived. They don't live forever. In fact, most plants have a lifespan that's within your lifespan or less. At least when they look really good. I mean, you kind of want rock stars out in your yard. You want beautiful models. You want gorgeous plants, not half-dead stuff that brings you down. You got this $500,000 house or more, and you got ugly plants. That's going to affect you. So these plants last about 10, 15 years, and then they do this dying thing. The stuff dies out. Yes, clear that dead branching out. So cut it back. It's a fire hazard. It just attracts more disease. Things are attracted to that dead stuff. And so keep it clean and then fertilize maybe once a year your manzanitas. It'll help force new growth, better flowers. Just keep it healthier so you get a little bit more longevity out of it. Get a few more years out of it. But eventually that particular plant, you're getting to the lifespan when it's going to die. It's waning at the last part of its life. So eventually the whole thing's just going to die out. But then the pups come up. They put on these runners that kind of come up, so the babies kind of come up from the runners. So the mother plant dies out, but then the babies kind of take over. And that's kind of how this plant works. This is another one that, just while we're on plants, this is Russian sage. We're famous for our Russian sage. Purple flowers, they're up about this tall. There's this dwarf one that's knee high. This one gets pretty big. Right now, you'll notice a lot of them, they're just drunk. I mean, they are stumbling over themselves, falling in the gutter, drunk, literally. They've got too much water, too much rain, too much, and they just lay over and go, ugh, and fall on the ground. They like to be dry. If your plants look like that in your yard, cut them off the irrigation. Just take that drip emitter that's on the drip on that plant, bend it over. I'm gonna give you I would actually cut it and cap it. But if you just can't do that, if you think you might have, the gardener within says it might need some water eventually, it never will. You can take it, bend it back, and tape it off. You'll never reopen it, but that plant is getting too much water, and so that's an indication you probably should be throttling back that water on that particular plant. Okay. Another indication is, I brought one like this. This is bamboo. This is our clumping bamboo. We don't have the running bamboo. This is one used for screens, hot tub. That property line, that neighbor's got that debris pile. The contractor that brings home all that junk, he should have just taken back to the yard. This is one that grows up this tall, thick, you can't see through it. But you can see it's starting to turn just a touch yellow. So it's just a leading edge of, I need to talk to water folks and have them not water that one so much. It's healthy, there's nothing wrong with it, but something that you brought it as an example to I have no idea, a bird just hit the greenhouse.
Must be a rock.
They woke the dog up too. Watch for that kind of off-colored stuff. If you see that, it's very easy to compensate. Fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food. The main ingredients in that is cottonseed meal, which is very, very acidic, so we'll lower that pH, give it a little bit of nitrogen, and it'll green it just up within days, really. If you keep watering and treating it the way it is, it will eventually be so stressed, there's a high likelihood that it could die. So this is serious. You don't want to just let it go, well, it's lived for 3 years already. This is an unusually wet summer. We don't usually see rain this much. Okay. In fact, I don't know if I'm able to say this. I'm tired of the rain. I want some dry. Can I say that in Arizona? I mean, I know I'm supposed to say, I really like the rain. I wish it rained some more.
It's only been wet for like a month.
I know. I need to see sun within every 7 days at least. And I work outside in the rain. I know it's
Midwest, and you won't complain.
I know it's my issue, but there's a reason you're here and not there. It's the sunshine.
The problem is the golf courses are rivers.
Yeah, they
Oh
are.
my God.
Okay, so let's go over drip irrigation specific. How many of us have a drip irrigation already? Actually, most of the class, how many are thinking about or adding to or putting more in? Okay, okay, good. So we got to go a little more deeper than I thought. So I was hoping everyone had a drip system I could just pass right over it and go. Here's a quick drip system. This comes off your hose bib. Let's say you're going to travel. You're doing the Panama Canal for a month and a half, and you need your containered plants to stay alive while you're away, and they're not on the drip system. This would be an easy, that's what this is for. This goes on the hose bib right here. It has a battery operated timer. Now most of us have a timer in the garage or someplace out on the side of the building, and the valves are actually in the ground. But basically this has got the timer and the valve all in one. It's run by a battery. It'll last for like a year. So it's an easy way to add on, let's say, a vegetable garden, or just an easy way to add stuff. The secret is, the reason I brought this, you need to filter your water. This has got a little stainless steel screen. The water goes through and it keeps all the particles out of the water. It's amazing. It's actually frightening when you start doing drip irrigation, how dirty your water is. There's stuff in there that you don't want to know is in there, but you get to see it when you have a year's worth of irrigation going through this. The bottom of this thing will be filled up with grit. Well, all those little tiny particles, they'll clog up the orifice, or that small opening of your drip emitters. So any kind of grit will clog up those emitters, and now you've got maintenance problems. So watch that. Always make sure you've got a filter is the main point. Second, this actually has a pressure reducing valve built into it. So we've actually put this together so it's shorter, easier, it's got all the parts you need. So we're actually making these. We got the parts that we would use ourselves. So it's got a timer, a filter, and it's got a pressure reducing valve. If you run your emitters at full house pressure, 40 to 60, 55 PSI, pounds per square inch, if you run your drip emitters at that pressure, you'll blow off your emitter heads. They won't be true to their rating. They'll flow faster than, let's say, 1 gallon per hour or 2 gallon per hour. These are meant to be very slow flowing, very efficient. All the water goes in the ground, none of it flows, all of it penetrates. That's the goal. If it goes higher than that, it's not as efficient. So I see a lot of do-it-yourselfers skip those two parts. They skip the filter or they skip the pressure reducing valve, and then they come in and go, I don't know why my plants are dying. I don't know why I keep blowing off the emitter heads. I don't know why I'm having all these problems. Right there, those two things, you want to write those down as pressure reducing valve. You want to run it at 10 to 30 pounds per square inch. You want to go at least half to a third the pressure that your water's at your house. Okay, regular out of the tap kind of pressure. So if you do that, it'll be way more efficient. You never use tape, like Teflon tape for you plumbers out there. You don't use putties, you don't use glues. This is all just barb. Poke the parts together and it just works. Super easy to put together. Anyone can do it because of that. You do not need to be a plumber by any means. We can show the most novice of folks how to actually add on or put in a drip irrigation parts. And all the parts we're using, so I've got, let's say, this coupler valve. We're using this specific coupler. This brings two 1/2-inch pieces of pipe together. They're barbed. Here's the insidious inside scoop of this industry, irrigation. They call it 1/2-inch drip irrigation, but there's like 3 different sizes of 1/2-inch, and none of them are 1/2-inch. None of them are truly 0.50. They're all 0.65, 0.43. I mean, this particular part, especially if you've already got a system in play, you broke it, let's say you took a shovel through it. That's my thing. I like to break irrigation, take the shovel, slice it through. You need to bring it back together. This particular coupler will bring any size 1/2-inch together. It adjusts. So no matter what system you had put in, this one will fix it for you. That's why you pay like 25 cents more, but you get a better part that's not going to have all these headaches. That's why we we're purposely curating the parts that we sell our customers, that we show off, that we help our customers with, so that it's easier when you get in the field. It's so frustrating, isn't it? You get out there and you forgot one part, or there's one, or it didn't quite fit, or you got to go back to the shop to get another part. I don't like that. So that's 3 times for every project. Oh my gosh, we're trying to save you from that. So that's why we're using these parts. Okay. Same with the 1/2 inch. This is 1/2 inch line. This is 1/4 inch line, or spaghetti tubing. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to. They also make an 1/8 inch line. Stay away from that stuff. You want 1/4 inch. This variety. There's one that's smaller than this. You'll see sometimes. You do not want that. You also don't want anything colored. You only want black. The reason being, it's got more UV stabilization. That is, if any parts are exposed to the sun, this will last longer than, let's say, a brown. I've seen white. You'll see different colors. Stay away from those. Also, don't go with any of the softer materials. Sometimes you'll hear, it'll be like easy to put together. Softer material will be more flexible. It doesn't last in the winter. It's just more problematic. I'm just giving you a school of hard knocks. Some things I've learned over the 2-3 decades that I've been going with this. So we purposely picked this line, these units, because they have more. This manufacturer's got more UV stabilization in their plastic, because you can put more in or less in, and it makes a difference in how long the pipe lasts out in the yard. So this should last probably 20 years out in the yard. The other question comes up is, how far should I bury it? I don't think you should bury it at all. Or if I do, I barely put it underneath the ground. A lot of folks from Midwest especially, they think they got to bury this thing 8 feet in the ground, keep it from freezing. We don't do that. We're not thinking in those terms with drip irrigation. We're thinking in terms of maintenance down the road. How easy is it to get to it, to add a new emitter? If the gophers get into it and chew it up, can I get to it, repair it? I'm thinking about ease of repair. So the deepest I'll plant my personal drip irrigation, maybe 6 inches. I'll go a little lighter than that. If it's back behind, let's say a hedgerow of big screening plants, I'll just run it against the fence above the ground. Just run it down there. That way I can walk the line and look to see if I see any drips, any problem. It makes it easier down the road, trust me, to maintain the thing. It'd be a lot easier to own and operate and use a drip system if you do that little technique. There's different opinions on that. This is my opinion, but my name is Ken, and I'm your friend. And this is what I would tell my family and friends. Okay, I'm telling you, that'll help. Drip parts, they can freeze. Generally, they don't freeze because they're draining out. When you get done, when you turn that power off, the water off, the lines will start to drain by themselves. What you really want to watch is this part right here, the valve. You don't want the valve to freeze, especially if it's in the ground, because in the ground is expensive. You've got that manifold, we call it a manifold, of 2 to 3 to 5 valves lined up in a row. If you break one of those, you've got to replace the entire thing. It's like a $300-400 fix. It's expensive. If you break this part because the water settled here and maybe in the spring it expanded and froze, this is like a $1.99 fix. This is cheap. This is expensive. Okay? Even this is like a $60, $70, the battery operated ones for $60, $70. If you've got to have a plumber come out and redo your manifold, $300-400. If your backflow preventer, that big brass piece that's sticking up out of the ground like a big wart in the yard, if that breaks, it's like a $500 fix. So you want to make sure these parts are insulated. But those are the 2 parts you want to make sure. That backflow preventer and then the valves, you want to make sure. Now the way I ensure this for myself, I take a piece of insulation in the house insulation, that pink, fluffy, looks like cotton candy stuff. I'll take a piece of that, put it in a trash bag, Ziploc baggie or something to kind of keep it dry, and I'll throw it in the box on top of the valve. That's how I insulate it. And then Here's the inside scoop. I've never had a problem since I've been doing this. I'll buy my manures, mulch, shredded bark, all the products I'm going to use in the spring, more potting soil, whatever thing you use quite a bit. Here at the nursery, we sell a lot of soils. Buy your soils in the fall and use them as huge pillows on top of the valve box. I'll actually throw a bag on top of the valve box. I love shredded bark myself. I like cedar shredded bark. I like it for two reasons. One, it smells good. It repels bugs, and it looks earthy. It's a top dress. I use it often as a top dress to keep the moisture in and the weeds out. And it comes in a clear bag. So I put the label down where I can actually see the mulch. You can't even tell I've got a bag of soil out there because I'm using shredded cedar bark and I threw it on top. It just, with those two things, even when you go sub-zero, it's not going to freeze those valves. I don't see how it can. I've never had a problem. I've been through several sub-zero events here in the area. Never frozen my valves with that trick. And that really does work. You want to watch that. Okay. Question right here.
Yeah, in relation to that, I've been told that you've got to blow the system down.
Gotcha.
To prevent it from
Right.
freezing.
So his question is, he's been told he needs to blow or throw air through it and actually drain the system fully. Sprinkler systems, drip systems, that kind of stuff. In Flagstaff, I'd say at the 6,000 foot level and above, yeah, probably the case. Do I do that myself? I do not. Because you need to water through winter here. At this elevation, it's cold, but it's not truly cold. It's only cold at night. It's very nice during the day. And so your plants, especially the evergreens, will tend to dry out. And so if they get dry, do not water. If you shut that system off in November, you don't turn it back on until April, we can have some very dry spots in the winter. And if you aren't watering, you'll have what we call winter kill. The tops of the plant or the tips will brown out or die off. And so that's because the plant was dry and didn't have enough moisture to keep the antifreezes that naturally occur. Plants have antifreeze in them, literally. And so sometimes we harvest that, we call it organic antifreeze. But basically, if it's dry, it can't push that antifreeze through the structure of the plant. We'll get what we call winter burn. It'll actually kill the plant sometimes. So yes, you could water by hand, but that's why I have a drip system. So I want to water by system, so I'll manually turn that system on. If the valves are protected well enough, and you're watering in the middle of the day, we'll get into times of when we water things here in a minute, you shouldn't have a problem. The main thing is watch the backflow. If you're a newer house, you have this big brass piece hanging up out of the yard, that piece is at risk. So you want to watch that. Make sure that doesn't freeze. They've got insulated bags. I've helped a buddy of mine, a pastor of mine. We actually put heat tape on it so you can keep the system going because he's so busy. He never thinks of his irrigation. He's thinking of his congregation. So that kind of helped him, kept him from getting it frozen. So,
What about
yeah.
the artificial rocks?
Artificial rocks is what we use out in the front yard, front to the landscape. We've got a huge backflow preventer, and it keeps it from freezing. We actually wrap some insulation around it, and then put the rock on it. There's different techniques. Come talk to me afterwards, and we can show you how to insulate a system. Yeah.
Our irrigation system valve is in a box in the parkway,
Okay.
and we don't have a
Backflow preventer.
that is visible any place.
Okay. So his question is, he's got a valve box in the ground, but he doesn't see the backflow. I do not have a backflow either. I don't want one. Just high maintenance. So legally, I should have put one in when I put mine in.
Yeah, how did you get away with it?
I put my system in myself, and so I didn't ask for a permit. I'm a farmer though. We don't ask, we do duct tape and baling wire. We take shortcuts. So I just don't want that maintenance mainly. And so, and I don't think I've got risk of, anyway, we can go into details on that, but you don't have one?
As far as I know, we don't have one.
You would see it. It would be very, very obvious. The backflow preventer is this big old thing of sand, this far out of the ground. It's huge. And you'll have usually a bag over it.
Yep, I've seen those
cheesy.
around.
That's what that is. That's what they're trying to protect. Okay? we digress. Where were we at? I forgot. Here we go. So, in a nutshell, I passed out a handout to you, a sign-up sheet. If you're in the class, make sure you put your email in there. I'm going to email to you. Do we have that going yet, Ken? Oh, here. I haven't done it yet, but I'm about to. There. Give me your email, and I have a actual handout that will go in this in depth. It's 4 pages. It's serious. I mean, it goes into everything we're going to talk about. 4-page handout. It's as simplified as I could get it. But let's cover it. The bird's eye view, 30,000 foot view right here. Okay? But I'm going to get you more details. It'll be in an email this week to you. Here's what you've got. Here's your house. Okay, here's your skyscraper. Here's your driveway going out. You've got plants around. Usually someplace you've got a water line coming into your house. Somewhere at the water line coming to the house, we've got an irrigation box. Usually it's a square thing, rectangular shape, many times a green top or a brown top, depending on who made the box. Look for that top. Pull that off and you'll see valves. You'll see your lines in the ground. It can be anywhere from 1 to, I've got 8 in my yard. I've got 2 boxes actually, 3 in the front yard, 4 in the back. So, because I want to break my system up. We'll go into that in a second. But I'm just telling you how it works, okay? Usually the plumber will stub off of this and power this and keep the water going to your house. So a plumber usually has to get you stub out, as they call it, stub out the irrigation line. Once you power this up, you'll see multiple valves. That's really of interest to you. I can show you that across the street. Physical, what's going on. From here, you've got 1/2-inch line that goes around the yard all over the place. Go underneath the drive, just 1/2-inch line, this stuff. This is distribution tubing or 1/2-inch tubing. This is how you get the water from this out into the yard. Okay, here's some measurements. You can have up to 500 feet of this on one line, one valve, one system. So over 500 feet, you lose pressure, you just can't get enough water through there. You can have up to 500 emitters on one of these lines. So 500 feet, 500 emitters. Is that simple? This will be in that handout for you, okay? So notes going fast and furious. But you need to know this stuff so you know where the capacity, how far you can go. If you're on an uphill grade and you're trying to push water up, those numbers come down because pressure goes down as you go uphill. If you're going downhill, maybe you can get a little bit more because pressure increases as you go downhill. All of us are on a grade because we're in mountain towns. So just some things to watch, okay? This line, this is 1/4-inch line or spaghetti tubing is what they call it. This is what we come off of this main line and we'll come out, I want to shrub here, I want to shrub here, I want to shrub here. Here we get the distribution line close and we'll take the drip line, the spaghetti tubing and take the emitters to the plant. This is what we use to get it to the plant, okay? You can have up to 25 feet of this, okay, before you start pushing the limits. So you want this 1/2-inch line within 25 feet of your plant, and we use this to get to the plant, okay? You can have up to 25 emitters. Maybe that's a little, I'm trying to simplify for it, but you can have a lot of emitters basically. More emitters coming off of this than you think you can. You have about 25 pounds per square inch. So if you're using 1-gallon emitters, you have 25 emitters. If you're using 2-gallon emitters, you maybe only have 12. There's some math with it, but basically you can have multiple emitters coming off of one of these spaghetti tubes. That's what I want to impart to you. You'll know when you get to the end, you're maxing out, you're taxing too much, because you put an emitter in it won't drip, or it's dripping noticeably slower than the ones that the closer to this 1/2-inch line. Am I making sense? Are you tracking with me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The way you connect these parts, let's talk the 1/2-inch line here. This is put together with either a coupler, an elbow, or a T. Isn't that simple? You only have 3 parts. There are more parts than this. We don't sell all those. It just makes it so complicated. You're stunned, deer in the headlights, you don't know where to go. If you can't put a system together with these 3 parts, you shouldn't be putting a system together. You just want to keep them simple. And all the other parts, if you got a quad deal, they're really expensive. Why not just put 2 1/4 inch, 2 1/2 inch, two T's together and do the same thing? You can naturally get some bend to this, obviously. But if you're going around a stair step, you want some serious bend, it's probably better to put an elbow in, because it'll kink sometimes. It'll just kind of fold on you, and you just don't want the maintenance. You can go kind of roundabout like this, but once you start to make corners, put an actual elbow in there. It's worth the extra couple bucks to save your headache down the road. You just don't want it to get a little aged, get in the sun, and then kink. You want to know why does that end not work and this end does? Then you got to backtrack to figure out what happened. Just use the elbow up front. Trust me, School of Hard Knocks. I've done all of these mistakes before. The great thing is, this is spaghetti tubing or 1/4 inch line. They have the exact same parts. They've got the coupler, they have the elbow, and they have the T. Let's just show that to folks that are watching live. Coupler, we've got the elbow and the T. Same thing, okay? All you do is you push these into place, and once you get them in place, they don't come out. No glue, you do not need tape or anything. They're just barbed. I mean, you got to be like Superman to get that thing out of there. If you're running at lower pressures, under 30 pounds per square inch, you should not have any problems. You just stick that sucker in there, and then that's all you do. You just lick and stick, basically, this system together. It's super easy, okay? We chose some of these parts, like this one. I chose this specific barb because I've got a little arthritis in my hand. I'm not the strong man I used to be. I can't just force this stuff to happen. So this one's got a little bit bigger grip so I can get the thing in the hole. So just, I'm looking for, is it easier for me? If it's easier for me, it's going to be easier for you, and that's why we're picking the parts that we're using here at Waters Garden Center. Okay? Secondly, you need these 2 tools. This is a pipe cutter. This allows you to take your line, put it in there, just allows you to cut it off. Oops, sorry about that. Got her in the eye. Just allows you to cut it. You can use scissors, you can use pruners, they'll all work. This just makes a cleaner cut so that you can get these parts. Once you make that cut, it makes it easier to get this part, slip it in there. Okay, so you should just have a box of spare parts, and you should have that cutter in there. Secondly, this is another School of Hard Knocks thing. You want a good hole punch. And you want one, they sell all kinds. The contractors use these cheesy little things that kind of poke a hole, and then you can't get the barb in. This particular one actually takes a chunk. So what you do, let's say I want my 1/4 inch, just takes a hole, snaps it in there, pulls out a physical piece of plastic out of there so that it's easier to now take my 1/4 inch barb and poke it in there. The other ones just make it difficult. You're struggling, they don't seal as easy. Do the, just buy this hole punch, trust me. There's a reason we have this one. It's a palm. It gets in the palm of your hand so you can get some more force on it so it's easier to get it. It's big, it's red, so you can find it. When you put it on the ground, you can see it. There's a reason we picked this exact hole punch over, there's probably a dozen of them. It's ridiculous how many hole punches. Don't use a nail. I've done that one. You go right through, all the way through, okay? So it's just School of Hard Knocks. Every system should have, did I bring those? I know I put them out. Anyway, they make a goof plug, just a plug. You need a whole bunch of those. Get the whole card. They make a card like 10. You need 20 of them. You're gonna make mistakes. Don't worry about, oh, it's in the wrong place. Or if you want to cap off or plug up or change, it's real easy. Pull that one out, plug it up. We call them goof plugs because often you put it in the wrong place, or I made it too wrong at the wrong angle, or you goofed. And so you just pull it out, plug it up, move on. So I wish I brought those up so you can see, but the big goof, just say, hey, Ken, where are the goof plugs? You'll know what they are, okay, plugs. What else can I just get you past the blunder? I don't want you to have the blunder. Getting you past so you're making mistakes in the right direction, that's the goal. Let's cover emitters, shall we?
Can I ask a real quick question?
Yes, you may.
I'm installing a brand new emitter system, so just use the putty pipe rather than the half-inch PVC anymore, right?
Yeah, you don't use rigid PVC at all. No, no, you want, this is far easier
Yeah, you make
at
it life easy.
a fraction of the price. I mean, this is like 10, 15 bucks for 100 feet.
And it is good.
Oh yeah, you just so much easier. Drip systems are so much more efficient. You'll cover your cost on a new drip system within a year, just in water savings. Whereas if you're putting rigid pipe down, it'll be 10 years before you get your recap your cost kind of stuff. Emitters, this is my personal opinion. If you're Googling this stuff, they're going to say use 1 gallon per hour emitters. I do not recommend that. Well, let's do this. This is a 2 gallon per hour emitter. It's called a button emitter because it looks like a button, okay? There's all kinds of emitters. I'm simplifying this right down to what I would tell my family and friends. I use this specific emitter, and here's why. It's pressure compensated. So it's going to be more true. So at the beginning of this half-inch line, up here the pressure is higher because it's real close to the plant. As you take that 25 feet away, the pressure starts to drop. And so many of the non-pressure compensated emitters, they'll flow faster. As you get closer to the half-inch line, they'll flow slower as you get further away from the main valve box or the main line. You want to use pressure compensated emitters. You ask for it exactly like that. Can you show me the pressure compensated emitters? Here, if you're buying your parts, we don't sell anything but. That's the only emitter we have. Because again, I'm trying to curate down for our customers. And I like the 2 gallon per hour emitter heads. 1 is kind of recommended by everyone, but I like 2s myself because the orifice is twice as large, flows twice as fast, and so it's less likely to clog up. I have less maintenance issues with 2 gallon. Now with that being said, I got a little caveat. All my trees, shrubs, and vines, I use 2 gallon. My flowers, I use 1 gallon. Because it's just too much water. 2 gallons, just too much for flowers. It's a small little emitter thing. So I'll use 1s with flowers, small things, and I'll use 2 gallon per hour for my big stuff. Okay? Stay away from, do not make this blunder. The biggest mistake I see happen. This is called an adjustable emitter head. It's my #1 seller. Hate to tell you that, but I don't sell these. People ask for them, they buy them. But you can open this up by clicking it. It goes from 1 to 10 gallons per hour. So it's not pressure compensated, but you are in control. I do not want to be in control in my system because once you start opening this pressure up, it releases more water, so it changes the pressure in the system. So all of a sudden, that emitter over there is not running as fast as this one. It's like chasing the blob or something. You can never get it truly right because you're always changing the pressure. We're into hydraulics now, your physics class in high school. But if you're using consistent emitters all the way across and simply adding another emitter or closing one down or shutting it off, the system will stay more true. The pressure will stay more consistent throughout the whole system. If you're using all of this pressure compensating, you'll just be more maintenance. I don't like headaches. I'd rather pay a little bit more up front and know it's just have less headaches down the road, know it's done right, than to just fix it right now and then 6 months later I'm adjusting it, okay? Just some things to watch.
I
Okay?
find with those things, they pop off so easily.
They can. If the top is popping off, you can actually clean them out and take this top off. That is a benefit. You can clean it. The other button emitters you can't clean, although the way the water goes in and spins around, it's kind of self-cleaning the way that one works. If your head is popping off, or if the entire emitter is coming off, you may want to check your pressure reducing valve. You may be running at a little bit higher pressure than you should, or you get an older system, it's just gotten old, and the threads are just replace it, and many times that'll solve that, the head is popping off. It's a maintenance thing, watch that, okay? Yes, oops,
Yeah, a few of those were installed in our system at trees.
yes,
Would we be better off doing multiple emitters rather than?
let's cover that. Very good question. So, he's got several of these. You must have an older system. Plants were put in, they put on their drip emitters originally. Now the plants need more water because they've grown up. So many times they'll put these on to increase the flow without doing any other work. They cut off the old button emitter, put on an adjustable, open it wide up, and let it flow. We now are not as efficient as we were. The better way to do that, this is a common problem. If you got an older house, let's say you bought a 10, 20-year-old house, your system was put in back then. Now you bought it, you're wondering, okay, what do I got here? What happens is, you've got a big tree here. Well, let's say you got a small tree, and you put a couple emitters on either side of the tree. Now all of a sudden the tree is bigger, it's now 5 times the size, and we want our water to be at the drip line. Have you heard that before? The drip line is halfway from the trunk to the outer branch of the tree. So here's the trunk. I know, I write like a doctor. It's just like, hi, I'm Ken, the plant doctor. I don't write very well. I don't draw Pictionary. You don't want me on your team. The drip line, the water should be out of the outer edge of the plant. That's where the fine feeder roots are. It's really fine, white-haired plants. Down roots. Down here, these are big old anchoring roots. They're ginormous. All they do is keep the tree upright. That is it. They can't even, they've got so much bark on them, they can't even take in water. Yet you've got your emitters still right here. Can you see the problem? Yeah, that's very, very common for older systems. You need to tune up, we call it tuning up the system. You need to go and just maintain the system, like a car or anything else. So what we want to do, some folks will take these adjustable emitters, they'll cut these 2 off, put these on and just open it wide up. So they go from 2 gallons per hour to 10, so we got a 5-fold increase in volume times 2. So that's how they compensate. The better way to do it, the healthier way, the one that'll make the plants kind of hardier, will be to cut these off, take some more spaghetti tubing, this stuff, extend this out to the drip line, so we're putting the emitters out where the tree benefits from it. And then we want to put probably 3 or 4 more emitters on than just the 2 that were there. So there we might have a line of emitters here, 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 and here for a big tree. If it's a really large tree, probably it's already got water. It's got roots in the flower bed, over the lawn. It's taken the shrub line. It's got roots everywhere. So it's automatically going where the water is. Where that will play out and come back to haunt you is, if you didn't adjust it, you're just letting the landscape, other emitters take care of it, is when we go into drought. We either have more water than we know what to do with, or we have none. For long periods of time do we have water. For long periods of time do we have dry. It's those dry periods that the plant will start to suffer a little bit. Drop more leaves, especially willows, cottonwoods. Certain plants are kind of crybabies. They give any kind of stress. They just shed leaves and whine, complain. Those plants will benefit from this trick of extending the number of emitters. And I would not use the adjustables. I would use the 2 gallon per hour emitter heads, just so I can keep that consistent pressure throughout the system. And remember, you can have up to 25, using 2 gallon per hour emitter heads, maybe you can have up to 12 emitters on one spaghetti tube. So don't feel like I got to go back to the 1/2 inch line for every emitter. No, not at all. You can have many off the one spaghetti tube. That's something that's kind of hard to calculate. But just trust me, you can do that. Question?
Yeah, where put those emitters out at the end or about halfway?
I would put them, I kind of go halfway. I take the halfway, so here's I'm the tree, trunk, here's my outer branches. I go elbow out, somewhere in there. I'd put the emitter right out there. Up from elbow in, it's nothing but anchor roots, and you'll get no benefit. So there's no, I wouldn't fertilize in this area. I fertilize out here, I put the water out here. Everything, all the nutrients are taken out there, not inside, okay? Does that help you? So where to put the emitters? Good question, very good question. Okay, yes?
On old spaghetti lines, it's been plugged up.
Yeah.
From the previous owner.
Yeah.
Are those lines all plugged up?
So she's got some older lines, the spaghetti line with 1/4-inch tubing. The previous owner had plugged it up and just done some maintenance. Or maybe some plants died, said I don't want that emitter there anymore, plugged it. You could probably cut that off, put an emitter in, put a plant there, and it would be fine. Yes, you could. If you've got water going through that spaghetti tube, you can modify or change that spaghetti tube to do whatever you want it to do, okay? Yes, in the back.
When you put a plant in and you've got the, basically the ball, the root ball.
Yes.
But you have a drip line that's like quite a bit further out from where the root ball is. Where should you put the
Oh,
emitter?
for new plants, that's different. Okay, for new plants, I thought I had that somewhere. Here we go. For new plants, let's just take it here. When you first put a plant in, let's pick one. Let's pick this, this is Eleagnus or silverberry. It's a native, grows wild, super drought hardy. Okay, you just have to water it for a year, and then you let it go by itself. But the emitters, he's saying the drip line is out here. So the drip line, here's the outer branch. It's this like, but the root ball is here. Where do I put the emitters? Good question. You put the emitters when you're first putting plants in, where the roots are. That's where we want. So here, even a big tree, a big maple or tulip tree, you want the emitters right here on either side of the roots, kind of halfway from the trunk to the roots. So my water's going right at the roots because there are no roots out here. You know that. You just planted it. Next year, there'll be, hopefully you've positioned your soil so the roots will start to push out. And in 2 years, the roots will be this big around. And this particular plant, they'll be way out here, all the way around. So there, maybe in a couple of years, if I'm still watering this, I might modify it. This particular plant, I would say for this too, Russian sage, just water it a year. Then cut it off of all water. Just doesn't need it. It's a native. These plants, they benefit from planting high. Remember we started out with, don't let them drown during the monsoon. These guys will drown, guaranteed. So you want to plant them on a slight mound, just so you notice. No one else is going to see it. But then you put your emitter heads on top of that right over the roots. Okay? Very good question. Excellent. Okay, man, I'm shotgunning this. We are going all over the place. I meant to be more organized, but there's some things you really want to impart so you just know with confidence I can do this, and know with confidence I don't want to do that. So we're trying to get this down to where we're starting to make mistakes in the right direction. That's the goal. That's how I garden, okay? Where else was I at? Okay, you've got an established landscape. I've got a group of gardeners here. I know you want plants. I got one more kid to get through college. I need you to buy plants, okay? So you've put this new plant in the landscape. How do you blend, make this plant that needs more water with established plants that just probably only need once a week watering? Maybe once every 10 days with all this moisture. You just don't need as much. Here's how I compensate. There's no right or wrong with this, but this is how I do it. I set the timer up for the established older landscapes. Then I hand water the new guys as they need it, okay? So you don't want to change the entire structure, the whole irrigation, the whole yard for this one new plant, or 2 or 3, just a row, whatever. I just put it on the regular system like all my others, and then I hand water extra that one plant. Does it make sense? Okay. Also, let's go over this. How often should you water? And the establishing, this will be in that handout, this email I get sent to you. It'll be in detail form. How should you water a tree, a shrub, a vegetable, a flower, a lawn? It's all there in one little chart, graph. In a nutshell, I'm watering my trees and shrubs that are established once a week. There you go, once a week. Deep soak. This drip system, you're watering, you're using, let's say, this emitter, 2 gallons per hour. The system has to run an hour to get 2 gallons of water out of this emitter. I've got a 5-gallon shrub. Let's say it's this Artemisia. This is a great native drought-hardy plant. Isn't that pretty? It doesn't bloom, doesn't do anything, but it's just soft and hardy as can be. Javelina, do not bother this. Deer, rabbits, bulletproof. It's just a great plant. Yeah, it's got a smelly, herbal, kind of sagey scent to it. This plant needs 5 gallons of water once a week. So if you're going to put this in the ground, you just have to think, when it's established, 5 gallons a week. If you're using 2 gallon per hour emitter heads, how long do you need to run this? If you only have 1 emitter head, how long does it have to run to get 5 gallons on there? 2.5 hours. So typically for me, I'll put a couple emitters on it. That way I can run it for an hour and a half and get the same quantity of volume of water on there. You can quickly do the math, backtrack real quick. And so a 1 gallon plant, this is a 1 gallon euphorbia, great evergreen, drought hardy perennial. It's one of the few perennials that are evergreen. This needs 1 gallon of water a week, okay? This is a 5 gallons of water a week. A 15 gallon tree needs 15 gallons a week. A 24-inch box needs 24 gallons. Can you quickly do the math? It just helps you real quick. Now, how much emitters do I need? You need to know that. So that's a real quick guide that helps guide you right in. So at least you're making mistakes in the right direction, okay? So supplemental water. Oh, I'm now barcoded. Supplement water your new plants, okay? Trees and shrubs established once a week. If it's a brand new plant, it needs water twice a week because it just doesn't have the root mass. It doesn't have as much, it can't take in as much. It's got a big plant, small root. So you need to water it 1 extra time. Flowers, herbs, things with a smaller root ball, probably you're watering those twice a week. Okay, lawns.
This will be on the sheet, I hope.
It'll be on the sheet, yeah, it'll be all there. So lawns, probably twice a week right now, maybe once a week with all the rain, but this rain fools you. You think it rained a lot, but really it didn't penetrate. What it did is it rained and it ran away, it ran downhill. That's typically what happens. So you need to keep the system going even when it's raining. This is important, you folks listening online. Water even in the rain, okay? So I want to make sure that, because the evergreens actually shed the water away from the roots. The water, if you're on a hill, run away from the roots. So plants still need, maybe not as much frequency, they still need some water. Here's a trick that I really work with. Once you figure out how much water a plant needs, how long the system needs to run to water your plants thoroughly, once you figure that out, you never have to make that calculation again. It's always the same. So I need to run my system for 2 hours, trees and shrubs, okay? Every time I'm gonna water it for 2 hours. Don't ever change that. Don't ever go, oh, I need less water, 90 minutes, an hour. Never play with that. What you're always playing with is, how frequently do I need to water my plants thoroughly? This really simplifies your clock settings. Now all of a sudden you're just playing with skip days. That's all I ever play with. So I'm going to run it the same year round. But the rain came. I'm going to back it off from once a week. I'm now at every 9 days. I'll see how the plants do. And I just play with, if it's really hot and dry, maybe I'll bump that up to every 5 days. I'm just playing with, but it takes the same amount of water every time to thoroughly water your plants. What are you doing, Vincent? No, you can't play. Hey. Hey, right here. Sit. Stay. He's in training. Labradors, they're always in training. So, hey. Yeah, they're kind of, and he's 4 now. So he's still got that gregariety, just wants to, but when he's on vest, he should know, don't tackle kids, don't go wrestle and play with other dogs, which he loves to do. Yeah, so, and we have a little Scotty. Have you seen Bailey? Little tiny Scotty. She'll come up and greet you, put her ears back, wag her tail, and go, "I'm so glad you're at the nursery." We just got a vest for her, so she's learning how to behave. She's actually better behaved than he is. He's been here for 2 years. Anyway, we digress. So we'll get you that formula. It's on the back of my card, which is just handed out, but it's small print. We'll get you the big print as well, and the drip irrigation guys. Okay, you release. Go ahead. You go. So I think we're coming down to it. I want to leave question time. So, any questions on drip irrigation specific? Yeah, with plants.
I bought a house here, and I'm from the Midwest, and Midwest we got, good Lord helping us most of the
Yeah,
year.
all right.
Here it's not.
Right.
But my drips look like a bayonet with a top, and it's
Oh, gotcha. So he's got an emitter, a stake emitter with an adjustable. He's got this. Where did it go? He's got that adjustable head emitter with a stake on it.
yeah.
He said it looks like a bayonet. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Looks like this. So that's what you got, right? So you just described. Kind of. Yeah, but same thing. You put your spaghetti tubing right here. Then you can open this up. I actually use this particular emitter. This is the greatest emitter ever for container plants. Because you can stick it in the container. It doesn't move as you move plants around. You can open it up to adjust and water the width of the container. Smaller containers, you can crank it right down. Big containers, you can have it. It puts out these little spider leg kind of water streams is what it
Mine
does.
doesn't do that.
What doesn't? Take the head off,
I did.
clean it off, then you've got a clog or something's up where
I
you've
just
got
got a new system for it.
restricted flow, you've got grit or something that's clogging up a piece somewhere that's causing issues with that. That's what's causing it.
I have to have them all open to get any water.
Oh.
I took all the tops out.
Yeah, oh wow. So she's got this emitter, and even with the top right off, which with this off, it should spray to like here to the moon.
Sprays this much on some and nothing on others.
You've got restricted flow, you've got a blockage someplace. If that emitter is not flowing, you have a blockage. If it's a brand new system, I would have the contractor out immediately because he's on the hook for 2 years. He's got a contractor's license.
And I paid a fortune.
2 years, you're on the hook. You can have him back whenever you want. Now, good luck getting back sometimes, but you've got a blockage. Somewhere in there, something's blocked. Either kinked, that's why I said use the elbows going around corners, but either kinked or grit, claw, there's not a filter, something's going on with that you need to have. If you just can't get the contractor back, we'll line you up with someone else and come out and tune it up for a minimal fee. Not a whole new system, but
Yeah, but
something's up.
This system costs thousands of dollars.
Something's up, yeah, something's up. Yes,
On your chart, you've got a whole bunch of different times. Time
Yes.
starting, days. We have one zone for our front end. back.
okay.
How do you?
We should cover that. Common mistake. Now, if you're having a contractor put a new system in, if you're gonna put a new system in yourself, make sure you have enough valve capacity, okay? Frequently, we put our landscape in and we just have some trees and shrubs because the contractor just wants to get in, wants to make the house pretty and then move on. They don't care, they're not thinking longevity like you all are. You're gonna be there for 10, 15 years. They're thinking just sell the thing in 90 days and get out of there. And so they put one valve in and then it just does the trees and shrubs, give it some glitz, and then they move on. You're gonna want some vegetables, a few flowers, a container at the front door. You're gonna want some extra stuff down the road. Really, if you're doing it yourself, you wanna have at least a 2-valve system. So you can have your trees and shrubs on one valve. You have the smaller rooted stuff, your flowers, maybe container dirt, maybe it's a vegetable bed on a second one. Because the flowers and vegetables get watered more often, right? Trees and shrubs, once a week. Flowers might be every other day in the peak of June. So if you water that often to your trees, you get too much water. They're not happy. If you're not watering that much, your flowers aren't. You can never get it just right with one valve. You're always playing with danger, overwater or underwatering. So you have to adjust it more often. If you could, ideally, go back where that valve is in the ground, you would stub out, maybe they even left you a stub out. where you can actually add another valve very easily to that manifold. And now you have two. You can set your clock up to have two different run times. So most clocks will run at least 4 different valves. Your commercial ones will run up to 12, 15, 24. They're almost unlimited with the computers we have now. It's unlimited how many valves they can control with one clock. But your clock will tell you it's a 4-valve system, 6-valve system. It'll actually say in those terms how many of these valves it will control. You may just have 1 valve. It's really simple. So really, if you're bidding out, you're having a contractor bid a new system, really question it. Really do your homework so you're asking the right questions. So now you're armed and dangerous. You should know what question to ask because they're bidding by price. Or if you're really stringent on them, you're just going by price and they may take some shortcuts and leave you hanging down the road. I'd rather pay a little extra money and have capacity so I can add to or have some happy plants than to be restricted by just an extra couple $100, okay? Yeah.
Well, I'm in one of those homes that's relatively new and there's 1 valve and on everything. So what then?
There's no way to really compensate. You either will be setting it up to make the trees and shrubs happy and you'll put your flowers on that same system and then you'll manually hand water to get the supplemental water you need because it won't water enough. You won't get enough frequency. Or you're going to keep the flowers happy and drown your trees and you'll see which ones can live in a swamp. And because they're always going to get too much water and you'll be playing with this. So there's, or you can put one of these on and just have, this is your second valve. It's an easy, $100, you've got a whole other valve. You can now add to just your vegetable garden or that flower patch or strawberry, whatever. You can now have an extra valve yourself by screwing onto the hose bib. One thing to watch, this needs to come off of the house, of the hose bib by Halloween, Thanksgiving, somewhere in there, we start to get hard freezes. If this valve, this is the expensive piece, this is the $50, $60 piece. If water is in here and it's under pressure and it freezes, the water will expand and it busts this whole part up. It won't bother this. It'll bother the most expensive piece that you put on your, so you want to take this off and store it in your garage through winter. That's the negative with having off the hose bib as opposed to in the ground. And there's no way I can make you happy. If you're one valve, there's no way I can make you happy. I could just help you blunder maybe with a little less problems, but it's never going to be exact. Okay, yeah.
I didn't catch the name of that.
This is, I don't have a name, this is Ken's special 1-valve system. I go to the hardware store, to the parts store, the irrigation parts store, and I just go buy all the parts I would use and put this together. And my goal is to get this as short as I can and have all the stuff that you need. Frequently you'll put them together and they're like this long. You don't have enough room. This one's just made to be
So
easy.
you sell them here? Or
It's just
do
a
you have to
manifold.
figure out how to-
It's called a manifold with all the parts you need. There's several of them down at the drip part inside the store. There's a drip parts section of just the stuff we're talking about. So this is, I pre-made them and they're set up so you can just put them on and you put your 1/2-inch tubing here and run it where you need it to go. For you 1-valve folks, this is probably an easy, very inexpensive way to go because otherwise you're probably going to need a plumber or irrigation expert to add on an extra valve and string the wire to come back and make it go. Without seeing it, I just don't know. And no, I do not make drip irrigation house calls. But I know people that do if you need help with that. Okay, yeah.
We bought a house that's about 12 years
How are we doing
old
on time?
up in Parkside in Prescott Lakes.
10 minutes over.
And 3 years ago, Patty came out and we plotted every single tree, every
Nice.
single shrub, and she
Perfect.
identified everything for us. Perfect.
Okay.
And then we were only coming back to a part-time. Now, last year we did her full-time. So he's really good at maintaining and adding on and that drip system. Our problem is we haven't a clue what we've got.
Oh, gotcha.
And we're starting to see things pop up and things aren't working well. We've got to redo the tree.
Okay.
How can somebody like this guy come out and say, this is what you've got. We've got three valves.
Let's go over this.
That
Got
we
it.
have no clue where they go.
Gotcha. So she's got a system and she doesn't know what's there. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Got it. So if you want to know, let's say you've got a 4-valve system. Just turn the valve on and run it twice. Let it run. Say it runs for an hour normally. Run it for 2 hours. If you do that, you'll start to see a wet spot. Now walk the yard and you should be able to see either running or you'll see where it was running. So now you can know which emitters are running valve 1. That's how I go through and maintain it. Because I've always bought pre-owned, pre-existing houses and fix them up. I'm a fix and flip guy. So I often have an older drip system. That's how I figure out what's on it. Also, if you don't know which line to add, let's say I want a new flower, which one is the water flower one? Turn it on and then feel which one's soft, which one's hard, because if it's under pressure, you should be able to push it in physically. You know, oh, that one's under pressure, that's the one I want for flowers. Poke that one and add the emitter that I want for that flower that I have, so you're on the flower line. If you make a mistake, don't worry. Every system needs at least 50 goof plugs. So if you make a mistake, you pull it out, put the goof plug in, and go for the other one. So you can't make too bad of, you can't get for 19 cents, you can make a mistake. So this is inexpensive enough where you can start to make mistakes and not really suffer too much. That's, or we can get you a name of someone downstairs and they can come out and do it for you. But if he's handy, he looks pretty handy. I think he could probably figure out, he could work with that. But the secret is run the system valve twice. So you got enough water, and don't do it in a rainstorm. Wait till it's dry, we can start to see where the emitters are. Many times the emitters get buried by debris, the rock guy came in afterwards. I like to leave my emitters up substantially so I can walk and see them running. I like to see my 1/2-inch valve line barely under the ground, so I can shovel through them easier, but mainly so I can fix them easier is mainly what I'm after. So maintenance, you're after maintenance, you're after ease of care down the road, not put in solidly like the Midwest, so frost lines 4 feet, want it done right. Now you want to get to it easy. Gophers, pack rats, bunnies, javelina, I've heard of everything eating the emitter heads.
Yeah, the bunnies.
I've seen all kinds of stuff. You want to be able to go in and change it, watch that, spot it, and correct it with ease, okay? With that, should we take a tour across the street? I think it feels like the sun is out. I don't hear the rain in the greenhouse. And we'll kind of show you what's going on, and I'll show you the valves at the clock and what I was doing, okay?